Welcome to the AI Chat Podcast. I'm your host, Jaden Schaefer. Today on the podcast, we have the pleasure of being joined with Ben Parr, who is the president and co-founder of Octane AI, a cutting-edge platform that is revolutionizing e-commerce through AI and zero-party data. He's a seasoned journalist and has served as the co-editor and editor-at-large of Mashable and is currently the AI columnist of The Information, which personally is my favorite news journal. Just because they have a lot of cutting-edge AI stuff that comes out, kind of good scoops on everything happening in that space. But he's the author of Captivology, the science of capturing people's attention. Ben is also a thought leader in the AI space, sharing insights through his popular newsletter, The AI Analyst, and across social media platforms. Welcome to the show today, Ben.
Thank you. That is a lovely intro and an amazing blue outfit for those who are listening and not seeing. I'm also an AI investor investing in early stage AI companies as well. So just all things AI over the course of a decade.
Okay. Yeah. And that's something that I think doing a little bit of research into your background kind of stood out to me was, this isn't something that you've hopped onto an AI type thing. This is something you've been like really interested in and curious and kind of in the space for a long time, before it was cool. What I would love to kind of kick this interview off with is kind of asking you a little bit about, how did your early career and your journey into this space, how did that unfold? Was AI, was technology, was this always something you're interested in? Or is this something you kind of like discovered or, created a passion for as you went along?
So the AI journey really started 2016 when my co-founder Matt and I started Octane. And Matt was actually, my co-founder Matt, shout out to him, Matt Schlicht, mattprd.com. He was he's been on the leading edge of product stuff. He was the head of product at Ustream, the live video company. He was a Y Combinator alum. In 2015, the year before we started our company, he went to China with his now wife, and he saw that everyone was using WeChat and chat in general to figure out to do everything, to make purchases, to communicate with the businesses. And it became clear to us that the most usable interface for humans is chat, and that eventually the intelligence of machines would get so good that you would, instead of having a weird website interface, that you would just chat, whether on voice or in text, with your favorite store, your favorite brand, whatever it is, to do anything, get anything. So we started Octane AI when Facebook opened the chatbot platform, and the technology sucked back then. It was horrible. We had to do some of our own NLP stuff. We had some off-the-shelf stuff, some combo, but we were able to make it work for a bunch of celebrities. We power the Facebook Messenger chatbots for Jason Derulo, Kiss, Aerosmith, Lindsay Lohan, 30 Seconds to Mars, Rick Ross. I got stories about all of them. Great. But that's how we kind of started. And I actually looked back at our very first deck, the deck that General Catalyst invested in us with. And it was, the last slide says that our mission is to democratize AI. And I feel like now, almost a decade later, we're actually getting to that point where AI is being democratized. Developers are able to build really almost magical apps using it. And that now people are realizing, yes, chat is actually one of the most usable interfaces out there. Like ChatGPT, literally chat interface, most viral product perhaps of all time for a reason.
Have you ever wanted to start your own podcast? I record and publish podcasts on a platform called Spotify for Podcasters, and I absolutely love it. Essentially, you can upload from your phone or computer, and it distributes to every platform that plays podcasts. They support video podcasts, and you can make money on the platform with ads or even podcast subscriptions, something that has made my life so much easier as a podcaster. So if you're interested, I highly recommend you give it a try. You can download the Spotify for Podcast app, or go to spotify.com/podcasters to get started on your podcast today.
This episode is brought to you by Klaviyo, the platform that powers smarter digital relationships. With Klaviyo, you can activate all your customer data in real time, connect seamlessly with your customers across all channels, guide your marketing strategy with AI-powered insights, recommendations, and automated assistance, deliver experiences that feel individually designed at scale, and grow your business faster. Power smarter digital relationships with Klaviyo. Learn more at klaviyo.com/Spotify. That's KLAVIYO.com/Spotify.
Yeah, 100%. And I think you had a lot of foresight in seeing that because, of course, today, like I was recently listening to the All In podcast, right? Top podcast with a bunch of VCs, and they're talking about how, chat is like it's becoming the new operating system. Like we're essentially, like you mentioned, people are just going to interact with their software, with their computers, with everything, with just like chat, with just talking natural language, kind of like what Siri was supposed to be. But maybe, a lot of people argue that Siri didn't quite execute well enough, and Chat GPT did a much better job on that. So a lot of foresight, from your side, to give you credit on recognizing that trend. For the people that don't know, would you be able to give us like a little overview of what Octane AI is, what you guys are doing, maybe how you've like evolved? This thing has been around, you said, for 10 years. So what are the shifts and what are you, currently solving for customers?
Yeah, of course. You're making me think of old stories with old stories with me and Jason Calacanis way back in the day. There are some early videos when he did This Week in Tech before he got famous at the All In pod.
Okay.
Octane has, great startups find ways to survive, and many of the greatest startups require, honing in on the product market fit. For us, what happened was celebrities, chatbots, great for press, horrible for making money. We had users, but we didn't have money. And so we had to hone in on a group of customers that would actually pay us. And there was a group that was using our software successfully, and it was e-commerce. So we took the same technology that we had built for these celebrities and others, and we took it to the world of e-commerce. We started building this set of AI tools and product recommendation tools using AI, using generative AI, and quiz tools to help collect data for these AI recommendations. And over the course of a couple of years, we become one of the top apps in the Shopify ecosystem. 3,000 e-commerce brands use Octane AI's different AI products to recommend products, gain more insight into their customers using this thing called zero-party data, which is essentially data that consumers directly volunteer because they want to get better recommendations for their skin or for their clothes or whatever it might be. And now it is a profitable AI company. I don't know how many of those you've ever heard of. There are very few of them out there. And so
one of the few, not even OpenAI.
Not even OpenAI. And so we have a profitable AI company, and that's opened up a lot of possibilities for us, the ability to experiment and try out new product lines and some crazy stuff that we're going to be doing, especially next year. But essentially, if you're an e-commerce brand, you use our stuff to, put quizzes on your website, use AI to recommend products. And we have tools that analyze all of your reviews. And we're coming out with more AI-related tools because these e-commerce brands have small teams and millions of reviews and data points that they have to go through. And delivering a really personalized experience can mean the difference between a horrible Black Friday or an incredible Black Friday.
Yeah. I think that's so true. Okay, I actually just have to ask you, because I don't hear often of companies that, or a lot of startups that are creating essentially apps for like the Shopify marketplace. Like that's such a fascinating area that I just don't feel like is talked about very often. I'm curious, like what's been your experience there? Like,
it's shockingly way bigger than you think. So, for example, there were two big IPOs in the last few weeks from the time of this recording, which were a lot of people saw the Instacart IPO. The other one is the Klaviyo IPO. And so Klaviyo is a huge email and marketing automation platform that almost every e-commerce brand uses. They're huge. They IPO'd at over $10 billion, and they're a profitable company. And there's a bunch of these companies that are out there. And Shopify, you just got to think like there's just millions upon millions of stores, and there's these different companies that help with everything from customer support. There's one called Gorgeous that's like a very big company, came out of Techstars, or Yotpo, which is like known for their reviews, and I could name hundreds. It's been great to work with these stores who are building. I've gotten to try the craziest products. I've gotten the facials that celebrities use. I've gotten Tracy Martin is the facials the celebrities use. I'm going to give them a shout out. I like a bunch of my stuff is like I have like these Kizik shoes that they just slip right on. and they use our quiz and all these different things. So it's always just super interesting to be like, oh, I got tea last night, and it was Harvey and Sons, which is like a famous tea company. They're one of our customers. Like, oh, look, it's our customer right there. I don't know. That's just a very nice feeling to have. It's cool. It's a great ecosystem, and they're very embracing of, what's changing in the world. But also, they're not developers. Most of them, they are building physical products. We help them with the AI portion.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. That's the sound of switching your business to Shopify, the global commerce platform that supercharges your selling. Harness the best converting checkout and same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands. Stop leaving sales on the table. Discover why millions trust Shopify to build, grow, and run their business. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tech23.
That's super cool. Yeah. Like I said, it hadn't been something I'd thought that much about, but now that you mention it, yeah, oh my gosh, that is such a massive opportunity. Something I'd love to ask you a little bit about, right, is you mentioned that you're a profitable AI startup, not very common in the space today. Do you have plans for, Octane AI? Do you plan on raising more funding for it, or how do you kind of look at Octane AI moving forward into the future and growing? There's founders that they've got their schedule of their fundraising that they run. There's others that like to bootstrap, I believe.
The thing is, you don't have to have a schedule when you're profitable. You can decide to turn on and off fundraising whenever you want, which is a crazy concept. And your team knows that they won't have to worry about a layoff, which I've had to do layoffs multiple times, and it's horrible. I never want to do one again. I can't tell you what exactly we will do, because I don't even truly fully know. The business keeps growing. We want to keep it growing. We want to grow it faster. It's I always encourage founders to not think of fundraising as a milestone, which it is for a lot of founders, but it's not a milestone. It's a very expensive milestone. You're giving up equity. It's a tool. Yeah. It's a tool to help you beat your competition, grow faster, and bring in people who might have experience that you don't have that you want to tap into. Our investor base has been really helpful on a whole bunch of things, whether even just by pure reputation. General Catalyst has been helpful for, getting top people to join our team. Javelin and Bullpen really helping us with some of the nitty gritty on the financials of the product. But I try to always say fundraising should never be the goal. It's a means to an end, and there are cheaper ways. It's an expensive way to get there, and sometimes it's the only way. So the answer is, I don't know. We're lucky to be in a great position. We're lucky to be growing. I am sure that basically every month, it's always a reconsideration of what should we be doing? And those are questions that you have to ask yourself all the time. So I wish I had a more specific answer. I really honestly don't know. And I'm happy about that.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing that's really awesome about that is that you have the opportunity to decide what you want to do on a play-by-play basis. This isn't you're essentially, most people their hand is forced. They're we're not profitable, we do this or die. So they don't really have a choice. And some of them do it and some of them die because they put themselves in that position. So that's really awesome that you guys have set it up that way. Like I mentioned before, the information is a publication that I absolutely love. I'm curious, you're an AI columnist for them. What are some of the most impactful trends in AI that you've covered?
So I also write a lot on my personal newsletter, and I think a lot about AI in society. So my newsletter, benparr.com, I have to do the plug.
Yeah, I'll drop a link in the show notes too for anyone listening.
Oh, thank you. Look, I'm thinking a lot about things my last newsletter was about AI being used to solve problems in the climate crisis, less generative AI, more pure machine learning, and AI in education, which I think education is perhaps the one vertical that'll be most transformed most quickly by AI already happening in schools. And not just schools, but it's changing the behavior of children. It's changing the behavior of Gen Z and Gen Alpha. There was a great podcast in the Daily for the New York Times podcast about how students, instead of going to their fellow students immediately. They could ask ChatGPT for help on, how you would solve this math problem.
Yeah.
And so it's becoming more and more like the calculator, where why would you ever write a first draft yourself when you can have it write the first draft and then you edit the thing?
Yeah.
Or, why struggle with a problem for more than a minute and not just ask ChatGPT, hey, like, how should I solve this problem? Or what am I forgetting here? There's one time where my fiance and I couldn't figure out where the pants were in a hotel room. We're like, where could they be? And it gives you ideas. And you're like, actually, we found them. Oh, like, seriously, like, think of it as students, or think of it as like a 24-hour, 24/7 brainstorming buddy who has access to the entirety of human knowledge. Why would you not use that every single day? And yet there are people not using it every single day, which it's just a habit of behavior you have to build up. Even I am like, I got to remember to use it every single day, but it's on my home screen so that I can just ask the silly questions. And I try to do that over Googling most of the time because I usually get the answer I'm looking for quicker and easier with better context.
Yeah.
So one trend, many trends in terms of what's going to happen with jobs, trends, what's going to happen in long term with society. We could go into that for 4 or 5 hours. It's probably the most rapid change I've seen in my time covering the tech industry ever since I came into the tech industry. Like, I've never seen change happen this fast. You have to think about it every month. Something's different.
Yep, I 100% agree. It's just like I think what's startling for a lot of people, and a lot of people are going to miss the wave if they're not paying attention, is like, this is one of those big tech, movements, those big tech shifts, but it's just we're seeing this at 10x speed. This thing is rolling out so fast, and people really got to be kind of focused on it. Something I would love to pick your brain about and talk a little bit about. You are, of course, a best-selling author of Captivology. Can you tell us a little bit about the focus of that book and how you see AI technologies playing a role in all that?
So, for those who don't know, I wrote a book, came out in 2015 from HarperCollins, called Captivology: The Science of Capturing People's Attention. You can find it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, your favorite bookstore. And what I did was I went through 300 years of research in science, in attention and memory, and I interviewed 50 of the world's PhDs on the subject, just like, how does it work at a human level? And then I interviewed what I called the masters of attention, people who applied and captured attention in their work, in their daily life. These were people like Sheryl Sandberg of Facebook, Steven Soderbergh, the director, Susan Cain, the author of the best-selling book Quiet, about introverts, Shigeru Miyamoto, the creator of Super Mario. And I really got this deep understanding of how attention works and how technology has continued to fray it, in terms of we just have very short attention spans with all the notifications.
Yeah.
It is hard. I've been thinking a lot about how attention will shift because of AI, because on the one hand, you could take away some of the tasks that make us really bored and are really difficult for us, and we can focus on things we really want to, because part of attention is just, do you even want to pay attention? And if you don't want to pay attention, you're not going to pay attention. It's really hard to keep people on task for a thing they hate. And AI has this promise of taking away some of the most mundane things. And AI allows us to, maybe have a back and forth kind of conversation, more like you do with a human, versus click email, click email, click email. But access to that kind of knowledge and that kind of information, that kind of person, almost like human, could have the other effect. I think in the end, it'll actually help improve our attention spans, because I expect long-term, every one of us will have kind of an AI assistant. Maybe it's in our ear, maybe it's in something else, maybe it's in our brains. I'm not sure. It could be crazy. And I'm not saying these are good or bad things. I'm just saying this is the direction things are clearly going. But with that, instead of checking your phone every day, you might just have a voice in. And that's probably a better option for us than the current paradigm of the smartphone that we carry around all the time, that has is literally designed to capture your attention and keep your attention and make you addicted to the thing. So
yeah,
I've been thinking a lot about it. I haven't come up to a specific thesis on every piece of it. I do think AI, if we all are embracing it, will help our attention spans long term. But it's even not just that. It'll eliminate work that we really should not be doing, that we as a society should be automating.
Yeah, I think that's a really key component that like people that are quite resistant to AI, right? A lot of people are like, hey, it's going to like take jobs, it's going to make a lot of displacements. Something that I like to kind of keep in mind is there will be shifts, and whether that's good or bad, people will have discussions, but the shifts are coming. So maybe we should just talk about, what that means. But there's a lot of really mundane things that can be automated and really make people's jobs more enjoyable, right? Like it's not like you're necessarily going to lose your job. Your job roles may shift, but you're not going to be doing the really repetitive, mundane things. And so there's going to be a lot of, I think a lot of quality of job that will get better. Something I would love to ask you about as well. Of course, you are a TikTok and Twitter X, I guess now, celebrity, bit of a social media savant, if you will. What role?
Savant, my goodness.
That's a word from Jason Calacanis on the All In podcast that popped in my brain.
Thank you, Jason.
Corrupting our language. In any case, what role do you think AI is going to play in kind of influencing the future of social media? I've already seen a bunch of TikTok channels that are just pure AI talking to me, telling me about something. And like, I want to hate them, but they were like kind of informative and interesting. How do you think this plays out, AI and social media?
First of all, I refuse to call that thing X. I'm only going to call it Twitter. I'm going to die on that hill for now. We'll see if I change one day. Look, we're already seeing it. You're seeing more content generated by AI. You're seeing even, the tweets posted by the people you like. AI is helping draft the first versions of it. If you do it pure AI, it's not as good as a pure human, though. So, like, the top channels are not, AI generated, but you could have, a set of very successful channels, I suppose, leveraging mostly AI for different things. And like, you see that with everything from like AI voices reading off content to, in news channels that I see on TikTok or on X. It's going to get harder and harder to know what's human or what's AI generated. And maybe there's a certain point where like, does anyone actually care? But I will say there's enough studies. There's one study that shows that if you just have the same piece of content, like if you have a piece of art and you tell one group that it was made by a human and you tell another group it was made by AI, the group that you tell it was made by a human values that art so much more higher than the one like you tell them it was made by AI, despite the fact there's no difference in the art and no matter where the art actually came from. And so I think of it the same way as chess, where we still care about chess, but AI beat us 20 years ago in chess, and yet we still really care about who is the best human in chess, and it hasn't diminished any interest in the sport. In fact, interest in the sport is perhaps higher than ever in some ways. So I think there will be even more value to like human-generated information content, and AI content has its place, right? Like a lot of local, like your Little League sports game in your hometown, there's no reporters you could pay to do that. Yeah. There's not enough money in it either, but AI could generate those like stories pretty well, and they've been doing that for years. And so you can cover things that wouldn't normally be covered and still have a lot more interest in, like, the next great novel is not going to be written by an AI. It'll be written by a human, or it'll be written in collaboration. So I think, more stuff, but the best stuff will always be mostly human. But what blend percentage is anyone really at this point with their content? Who knows?
Right. Yeah, okay. I really like that perspective because myself, so it's kind of a funny background, but last year, before I started this podcast, I started this thing in like February, and it just kind of exploded. Just passed like 1 million listens on it like a couple weeks ago. But right at the beginning of it, it was interesting because I actually had a bit of a background. I do marketing. That was my like background before kind of getting into tech and AI a number of years ago. But at the beginning of this, I'd actually, for a marketing thing, I'd done this project where essentially I created 20 AI generated. So the scripts are generated by AI and the voices were done by AI podcasts. And it was kind of fascinating to me because I put them out there. Some of them didn't do very good, but a couple of them like got like huge listeners, like over 100,000 listens on these like completely AI generated podcasts. And my strategy with them eventually was like, once they grew, it really just kind of showed me, okay, this topic is interesting. I'd find an actual human to kind of take it over and run with it. But anyways, at the beginning of this, starting this podcast, I knew I wanted to do an AI podcast, super fascinated in the space. And I was kind of working on some startups in the space. But I was like, should I just do an AI generated podcast? That'd save me a ton of time. And I kind of came to the conclusion that you've mentioned here, which is people want to know this is a real human sometimes. Like there's just an intrinsic value in an actual human doing this. Like if I make a mistake, if I stutter, if I say people actually are going to want to hear that. And I think as AI proliferates into everything, right? Let's say 50% of all TikTok videos become AI at some point in the future, right? Theoretically, like the ones that are human generated are going to have a lot of value. And people, of course, the AI, it's going to be cat and mouse because AI is going to learn how to talk like a person, kind of making mistakes or whatever. There'll be all sorts of things. But I really do think there's some serious value in a real person doing it. This is a person's lived experiences they're sharing. And that was kind of my thesis. And I feel like it paid off, or it played out well for me there.
My co-founder, Matt, and I believe, and we've believed this since for a long time, that in an AI world, where lots of other things are being automated, the one thing that is really, really hard to replicate and really powerful for your career and future-proofs you is personal brand. No question, 1,000%. This is why, if you could build up a podcast or a newsletter or a TikTok account or something else that helps you get out there and builds reputation, that cannot be taken away from you in the same way that a job can be taken away from you, or so many other things. If you could build personal brand, then you could leverage that into so many other things, but you have to put in the work. There's no amount of AI that's going to help you figure out what target market and find a voice and help you. Again, it depends on the way that you are. You may hate camera, but then that's what newsletter is for. Or you hate writing, then TikTok is great. There's always a medium for everyone. And everyone has some kind of unique knowledge or insight to share. That's what I believe.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you there. And I think that's a very valid point because, of course, so I'm in entrepreneurship. I know you're in entrepreneurship. I know not everyone is. But one thing I will say is, a lot of people tell me hey, you're an entrepreneur. Isn't that so risky? Isn't that so unstable? How do you kind of do it without the instability? And for me, it's well, when I had a job and I worked in corporate America, I didn't really have that stability because our company, struggled and they had to lay people off sometimes. And, I was concerned that would be me. And so there are always kind of pros and cons to that. But like you mentioned, I think insulating, whether you are planning on having a career in a company or starting your own thing, your personal brand, I think, is the best way you can leverage to get great roles great roles at companies, or, start your own thing. And I think, personal brand and building that audience is so critical. So really appreciate that advice. As we're wrapping up the show today, Ben, absolutely appreciate everything you've shared. This has been a phenomenal chat with you. I'm going to have to get you back on and, of course, see your your exciting podcast studio. I've yet to see this yet. So we'll get you on for that. But I did want to ask you a real quick question, which is, based on your career and everything you've seen, what are some predictions you could make about where you see AI heading in the next 5? I usually ask people where an industry is going in the next 5 to 10 years, but AI is going so fast. Let's just say 3 to 5 years.
Well, I do think in 5, 10, 20, 40 year time frames, because I'm also thinking about this from the investor.
You're a maniac.
Well, you have to think about it from the investor perspective about how the world is going to shift. So a lot of people talk about the technology, and some things are clear where the technology always gets cheaper. It gets easier to leverage the technology. But I think about it more from the social aspect, because I do think we're going to enter an era where the vast majority of the human race will not need to work in order for society to function. And so, people realize we probably used to have much longer work weeks, and then they got shortened when it was, things were able to be more automated. Either we're going to go to a place where more humans don't need to work, and therefore we need to have a whole new system, where people can support themselves while they pursue their passions, or it's going to go from a 5-day to a 4-day work week. I think I saw Jamie Dimon over at Chase or whatever, talking about
5-day work week,
which, there is a clear trending. It's not trending towards work, more hours, unless you really want to. You have the choice, but imagine being able to support yourself and having 3.5 days a week to work on stuff because AI has automated everything else. It's almost inconceivable for us in our current system to think about, but it is the kind of thing that makes logical sense when you kind of take a half step outside of the existing societal bubble. And so that has interesting implications and applications. Maybe art does get more valued. Maybe a whole new type of career happens. Maybe people find less value in pure work and more value in something else. I'm not 100% sure about where it'll go, but I know it has to go in that direction because AI really is it's not incredible at everything, especially right now, but it is incredible at automating the kind of tasks that humans are not good at or really don't want to do, especially, right? This who wants to go through 50,000 pages of discovery when you can have AI go through all of it in a couple of minutes and find key insights. And that's what's happening now. So our society will have unique reckonings over the course of the next few years, especially as this technology gets better. AI starts to see, as we saw that with ChatGPT. And I know a couple of things coming out in the coming months that are just completely bonkers. It's just going to be a reckoning for society, I think, in a good way overall, but we have to process it. And it's hard to change behaviors, especially this quickly. We've never had change this fast.
Yep. 100% agree with you there. Ben, it has been phenomenal having you on the show, sharing your insights. We're definitely going to have to do this again sometime soon. But if people want to get in contact with you, I'm already dropping benparr.com in the show notes. You already know. But if they want to get in contact with you to find out about any of your other projects, things you're working on, what's a good way for them to do that?
Well, my co-founder and I will have a big announcement sometime in the near future, so I will come back for that one. I won't tell you when. I won't tell you how. I will tell everyone you want to know what it is, benparr.com. Go do the newsletter first and foremost. But literally at Ben Parr, BenParr on your favorite social network. I post on Threads, X, TikTok, whichever, Facebook, LinkedIn, whichever thing. I'm there. I'm happy to talk about AI. Send me a DM or send me I'm going to call it a tweet because I will not call it an X or whatever.
I don't even know. I still call it a tweet.
It's a tweet. Send me a tweet. What you're thinking about AI. So, yeah.
Okay. Will do. Again, phenomenal having you on the show. Excited for your big announcement. And I'm just going to put a little plug at the end for the listener. Seriously, go subscribe at benparr.com. This guy is at the absolute pinnacle of what is happening in AI. He's got his pulse on it. And so if you want to stay in the loop with it, the same way the podcast keeps you in the loop, I'd really go over to benparr.com and get on that newsletter and get ready for some of his exciting announcements. Ben, it was great having you on. To the listener, thanks so much for tuning into the AI Chat podcast. It's been a great adventure today. Make sure to rate us wherever you get your podcasts and have a fantastic rest of your day.